Good morning. It's Market Day Report. Welcome to a Thursday. Okay, coming up tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Central Time, 12 Eastern. And what is that, 10 Mountain, 9 Pacific? We'll stop at that. But the World Ag Supply Demand Estimates Report, or WASDE report, this is a fairly anticipated report that we'll get from USDA tomorrow. We'll talk more about that throughout the morning. First off, overnight trade of corn. Where have we been? Well, in the red, off a quarter cent on December at 4.20 3/4, unchanged for both March and for May. And the soybean contracts have been in the red, down 3 on November, 10.17 1/4. The other months 2 to 3 1/4 cents lower. Now let's go through wheat. We'll hit the December contracts. 4 higher in Chicago at 6.03. For Kansas City, up 3 3/4 on that front month, 6.12 1/2. The deferreds, all 4 higher. And in Minneapolis, 2.5 higher on the Ds at 6.50 3/4. Let's stick with the December contract for cotton, 72.08, down 17 in the overnight trade. All right, Brian Hoops is president, Midwest Market Solutions, and that supply demand report coming out tomorrow. But part of what we watch for is export numbers prior to that, right?
Yeah, we had those out this morning, and I should say good morning, Tony. No private sale announcements this morning, but we did have the weekly export sales. So nothing real outstanding here for the grains. Corn, 48.1 million bushels. Mexico and the unknown destination were our 2 biggest buyers by far and away for corn. China ended up being a huge buyer of U.S. soybeans again. So we sold 46.5 million bushels of soybeans, and China bought 21. So almost half of what we sold was related to China. And then the wheat sales, 15.9 million bushels. Mexico, the best buyer there. None of these numbers are really outstanding numbers. They're decent, but they're not going to change the game here whatsoever. And markets really didn't react after these numbers came out at 7:30, and we saw beans trade lower. So weather forecasts virtually unchanged for South America. There's still European model has heavy rains beginning next week for much of Argentina and Brazil. The U.S. model is a little bit drier, and so there's a conflict, and that doesn't give us a lot of confidence. We saw grains trade two-sided overnight, and when we go into the report tomorrow, there's a tendency for these markets to try and run some stops and just make things as difficult on people as absolutely possible. There's a side-by-side low on the charts for November beans at 10.11 1/2. That would be Tuesday and Wednesday's lows. I think we probably go try and take that out and see if there's stops below there we can go run in pre-market positioning. So that's how I would look at this market this morning. Not anything really to rally things. We're probably going to go chop around, hunt for some of those stop losses.
Now, Brian, again, fairly tight range on this report tomorrow. But if we get a surprise from USDA, could we be off to the races in the markets?
Yeah, exactly, because you have such limited range as far as what the pre-report guesses are. Now, 9 out of the last 10 years, the USDA has come in under the trade guess for soybean yield. So history's kind of on your side that if you want to be bullish to soybeans tomorrow, that would tell you that good chance that maybe the USDA comes in under that average trade guess. Meanwhile, it's kind of the opposite on corn. We've had big crops get bigger from September to October, and then in that October report, I think it's 7 out of the last 10 years that we've increased yields in the October report as well. So, it looks like maybe we're going to see bigger corn yields, lower soybean yields is certainly a possibility. But again, even if we have lower bean yields, it's probably going to get down to what happens in weather in South America and give us another selling opportunity if those forecasts remain wet.
All right, Brian, hang on. We'll take a break, come back and talk cattle, hogs. Market Day Report continues in a moment. It's Market Day Report. All right, do we have a standoff occurring? Looks like it. When it comes to cash cattle, we We sold some earlier in the week, but now it looks like we're holding out for higher prices and maybe packers not wanting to pay that. We'll find out today and tomorrow for sure, but yesterday, live cattle in the red, December contract at 187.22, off 65. What about the feeders? Well, we saw $1.62 lower on the November at 248.67, and the hog trade on Wednesday, December, $1.60 lower, 75.57. Let's bring back in Brian Hoops, Midwest Market Solutions. Okay, Brian, some exports for pork, were those positive?
Yeah, the question is, will the market even care? A lot of times the hog market doesn't respond to the fundamentals, but these were big sales, not marking year high, but very, very large. About 50.6 million tons sold last week. Shipments 22.8. That's about where they have been. Beef sales were just, kind of mediocre. Again, where they've been pretty much all year long. 13.7 million tons, shipments at 16. So you don't get a lot of help out of the beef. The pork market there, that's where the number really jumped out. So again, I don't know if the hog market's really going to care about it. We trade technically there. I think if you don't take out yesterday's lows, you probably should see some short covering and a rally in the hog market this morning. The cattle is still looking for that cash trade. It's pretty elusive. Now, there are a few scattered bids at 187 in the southern plains that have been passed. That would be $1 better than last week's trade. But you look at where October futures are trading, much higher than that, up in the 188 range. They're looking for $2 higher cash trade this week. So kind of a standoff that we've seen in the cattle market this week. It's still continuing in the southern plains, still looking for that cash trade develop. And other than a handful of trade in the plains and on a dress basis in the north in Iowa, just not much movement so far, but we expect that to pick up today and into tomorrow.
Brian, perfect point there. We have to see the convergence of that contract with the cash. So somebody has to give. Either our futures have to come back or cash has to, again, that will tell the tale at the end of the day.
Yes, sir. Yeah, exactly. So we don't have to align perfectly, but we do need to match up, a little better than $2-3 difference in the cash markets to the futures.
Well, Brian, always good to see you. We'll see you again tomorrow. Again, USDA's World Ag Supply Demand Estimate, or WASDE report, that comes out 12 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow.